Hey guys, haven't made a video for a while. I've been being lazy. This is a list I have been playing recently that I have really liked. It's been running well for me. I thought I'd run it through a league and see how it goes. First, I'm just going to talk through what is different about this list to a standard list. Manabase, same as normal. One Lotus Petal, pretty standard at this point. 4 Icorids. Some people are running 3 to try and fit the Ox in. Personally, I don't think it's worth it. I think 4 Icorids. Icorids is just... When you have to bottom Icorids, when you have 3, it puts you in an awkward spot. Like, sometimes you have hands and, like, you just have to bottom an Icorid because it's the only card in the hand that's worth bottoming. You're just making your hand worse by keeping the Icorid. And having 3 left in the deck in that situation instead of 4 is a big deal. Obviously, it makes slow dredging better. I could see myself dropping down to 3 again, but I think if the deck's not being pressured in any way to try and fit a different card in, I think you should, on the whole, max out on the Icorids. I think it's worthwhile. 2 Careful Study, 2 Putrid Imp, 2 Firestorm. Firestorm is a card that's previously not even... It used to be a very, very long time ago. It used to be a sideboard card. It fell out of favour and it has not been seen in the sideboard for a very long time. It's always been a good card against elves. It's a pretty good card against Delva. Also a good card against any creature decks, anything with Scavenging Ooze. It's a nice answer to Scavenging Ooze, as it's sort of like in line with what the deck's trying to do. You can kill Containment Priest with it, but really it was more like a card for like go wide creature decks and a good card against Delva. Recently online and in the meta as a whole, we've seen the printing of Allosaurus Shepherd and we've seen the printing of Muxus, both of which have powered up goblins and elves, both of which are decks which are very weak to Firestorm. Also, Rug Delva is the best deck in the format, running Okos. It'll probably get Oko banned. So if you're rushing out to try and get your Oko for the sideboard for this deck, I'd just try and borrow them off someone. For now, I think it's probably going to get banned at some point, which for this decks or whatever, we don't really care whether Oko's legal or not. But Rug Delva, another deck that's weak to Firestorm. Other things that Firestorm's very good against: Elvish Reclaimer, which is a very problematic card for us. It gives us a clean answer to the card, because even if you have Leyline of Sanctity against Elvish Reclaimer, it can still find you the Marital Age combo very quick. It can also fetch up other lands that are a problem. It can fetch up Tabernacles, it can fetch up Maze of Iths, it can fetch up all sorts. It can fetch up lands, in the case of elves, even if you've shut off the bog from them, they can fetch up Gaia's Cradles and just generate loads of mana and win the game that way. It's a very, very good card right now. It also kills Emery. So you might be thinking, why is it not in the sideboard? Because it's not good in every matchup. Obviously it's bad against things like Storm. It's bad in the mirror. It's not great against things like Hogak. It's bad against control decks on the whole, though it does have some utility in being an uncounterable discard outlet, and it also has the benefit of answering Containment Priest postboard, but on the whole it's not really a card you want in the matchup. So you might be thinking it's more of a sideboard card. To an extent, yes, but if you see what I've done in the sideboard, we have an Ox Vagonus. Now, Ox Vagonus would traditionally be a card that people would try and put in the main deck. I was doing that for a long time, and I tested it a lot, and I found, on the whole, it's not necessary game 1 in most matchups, just like Dread Return's not necessary main deck. It's just a dead card. It's basically a Dread Return game 1. Now, that's not to say it's not times where it comes up. Sometimes it's very relevant game 1, and you can have 2 lands and you can return them. But on the whole, I'd say 9 times out of 10, you'd rather have another loot spell in hand instead of drawing an Ox of Agonis, I want to say. Not to say it's a bad card. I think it's very good, which is why it's in the sideboard. So you could have the Box of Agonis main in the Firestorm sideboard, but the Firestorm, naturally, because of the strength of Elves and Goblins and Delva in the meta, is actually a better main deck card right now than Ox of Agonis, in my opinion. We trimmed a Putrid Imp to fit the second Firestorm in. I want to say, again, this Firestorm idea, not my idea. This was the idea of Mathers Van Gogh, the guy who did the 4 Putrid Imp list, which I think was probably trying to counter the same issues that the Firestorm's trying to deal with, in that Putrid Imp's very good against things like Elvish Reclaimer and against the Emery decks. In the sideboard, we have 5 answers to Leyline. We're looking a bit different from normal. Normally I'd be maxing out on Wismares or having like 3 Wismares. 1 Wismare is probably the lowest number of Wismares I've ran for like over a year. The reason is Chalice of the Void is very, very low in the meta right now, and you've got decks like Goblins being very high in the meta, Elves being very high in the meta, where Nature's Claim's very good against Goblins and good against Elves because they run... well, it's good against Goblins specifically because they run a mix of Graveyard Hate. They run Relic a lot of the time, they run Crypt, they run Cage. Nature's Claim's the only card we can side in that answers all of those. Leyline of Sanctity obviously does nothing against Relic, annoyingly. It also is just good against random stuff. There's been a lot of random Grave Hate as well, I've been finding. Nature's Claim's obviously okay against Sneak and Show with Cages in the board. The 1 Wismares, obviously, it's the best answer to the Leyline Chalice decks, but as I said, they're not very relevant right now, but I still have 1 just because it's a good card, and I don't think having 3 Nature's Claims... You don't generally need 3 Nature's Claims in the matchups where you just want to side in the Nature's Claims, so there's only 2. Then we've got 2 Chain of Vapors. The reason for the 2 Chain of Vapors, I don't like this card. I think this card's bad. It's terrible in the mirror. Nothing's worse than sitting there having a Leyline of the Void in play and your opponent plays a Leyline of the Void and then your only answer is Chain of Vapor because you try and bounce it. They just sack a land and bounce it back to your hand. Same as against Hogak because they do the exact same thing. It's terrible in both of those matchups. However, what it is good against is it's good against Turbo Depths, which is a deck which sideboards 2 Leyline of the Voids in the list of the most popular Turbo Depths player on Magic Online, Negator 77. You can check his sideboard guide. I'm sure if you search Negator 77 Turbo Depths sideboard guide, you will see that he has 2 Leyline of the Void, 2 Surgical Extraction in the sideboard. Chain of Vapor is the only card I would bring in that matchup, and I would not bring in more than 2 if they're only bringing in 2 Leyline of the Voids. But the problem is Depths is a bad matchup already. Depths with a Leyline of the Void is even worse. Chain of Vapor is actually a good card in the matchup. Being able to answer Marital Age can sometimes buy you enough time, and the fact that it can also bounce Leyline of the Void, I think makes it justified as a card in the sideboard. It's sort of doing double duty. I don't really like it. Turbo Depths has sort of chilled out online recently, so I could see myself taking it out, but that's the reason why it's there. I don't like the card. It seems like a necessary evil at the moment. Standard number of ley lines. I like 3-2. Some people like 4-2. Some people like 4-3. I'm greedy. I like 3-2. 1 Lotus Petal. It's for going fast. Ox of Agonis, as I said, could be main deck. I think it's better in the sideboard. It comes in when you're wanting to go fast, and it comes in against control decks and Delva decks. We'll probably play against the Delva deck in this league, and you'll see. Ashen Rider, Dread Return. I would like to have an Iona in the sideboard. The cut would be the Oko, but I like having Oko too, partly because I think it's funny, and also partly because I think it's really good against the control decks and when you're just sideboarding blind. So that's the list. As I said, thanks again to Mathers Van Gogh. He was the guy that inspired me with the 2 Firestorms in the main deck. They have been running very well for me. He was the first guy I saw doing that, and yeah, this list I'm quite happy with at the moment. It's the first list I've been happy with since the last bannings. Yeah, let's run it through a league, see how it goes.